ancient cypress trees in one of the bayous in the Deep South are among the last living witnesses to the greatest conflict on American soil. They might still remember the days of the Civil War, something no man alive can measure up to. The South may have lost the war between the states, or war of northern aggression as it's sometimes called around here. But a century and a half later, it has not forgotten. Confederate heroes have been immortalized in stone and metal, their grit perpetuated by Southerners who ardently preserve their heritage for generations to come. Until a young white man entered the oldest African-American church in South Carolina and, hoping to start a race war, shot 9 black church members to death during prayer. That fateful day in June 2015 didn't just change the city of Charleston, but it reverberated throughout the United States. Not surprisingly, it began in New Orleans. This cultural melting pot is known to be a progressive party town, but it also was one of the biggest slave trading centers in the country. A few reminders of that era are some modest markers and a couple of big monuments, like this one of Confederate General Robert E. Lee, towering high above the city.
The Confederacy was on the wrong side of history and humanity. It sought to tear apart our nation and subjugate our fellow Americans to slavery. This is a history we should never forget, and one that we should never, ever again put on a pedestal to be revered.
If standing up for my identity and my people makes me a racist, then go ahead and call me a racist, call me a Nazi, call me a fascist. I don't give a shit anymore. How you want to erase our monuments? They want to erase white people from existence.
Some 700 Confederate monuments still remain throughout the country. Richmond, Virginia, the one-time capital of the Confederacy, is home to some of its biggest and oldest shrines. Their enormous scale seems to rewrite the end of the Civil War, changing defeat and surrender into a triumphant victory. Their elevation is part of the ideology known as the Lost Cause, which focuses on the valor and sacrifice for their heroic struggle against great odds. But it also paved the way for the Ku Klux Klan in the era of Jim Crow that tried to save the Old South by keeping the black population from exercising their freedom for almost another century. But while times change, some images seem to be made for eternity, like at Stone Mountain, Georgia. On the face of the monolith, the Confederate Holy Three have been carved deep into its surface. Not only is it larger than Mount Rushmore, at 3 acres, it's the largest bas-relief in the world. I was eager to figure out whether these symbols of Southern heritage could be separated from the white supremacy they're associated with, and whether something worthwhile might still be salvaged. Charlottesville became the center of attention in August 2017 when the alt-right united around a Confederate monument. We took these images at the same place, 1 month earlier, during a rally of the Ku Klux Klan.
The Klan thinks all lives matter. It always has thought that. The Klan has not killed anyone in over 36 years. We stood up against tyranny, oppression. That's what that statue means. We stood up against oppression. That's what that statue represents. And you want to tear it down.
In what amounted to little more than a shouting match, a complex matter was reduced to a bunch of bumper sticker slogans. Could the removal of a contested statue be anything else than a step towards a more inclusive society? Or was this a form of political correctness that actually takes something away from history and culture? Looking to find a way past these monumental crossroads, we set out on a 6,000-mile road trip through the former Confederacy, exploring the many perspectives on this struggle. B. Mike is a spray paint artist focusing on African-American history and culture.
I've always been a fan of history. I've always been a fan of the stories and histories that were about struggle and triumph that came from struggle, and seeing myself reflected in those stories, especially in spaces where you don't often see yourself reflected in the conversation of history. You know, there's a great African proverb that says, "Until the lion tells his tale, the tale of the hunt will always glorify the hunter." And so if you're a product of, you know, the public school system, you kind of find yourself listening to the tales of the hunter. You never find yourself listening to the tales of the lions. So in the conversation about the monuments, it was what I struggled with the most growing up in New Orleans is why are these people, why is this person lifted amongst everyone else? Why is this person on the pillar? Like, what did they do that was of so much value that I can add to myself today? Like, there's so much you can say about Dr. King in terms of what you can apply to your life today. And we can teach kids, we can teach adults, we can say, look, follow this legacy, because look what he did. And it's very hard to do that with the conversation of the monuments, with the conversations of who were selected to be celebrated, to be preserved, to be lionized. I think if one can look at the Confederacy and delete white supremacy from their brain, there may be ways to successfully explore that moment and find ways to do it in a way that everyone can understand. And I don't want to say appreciate, but I'm gonna just contradict myself as I keep talking because I don't know what I'm talking about.
No, but this is entirely the struggle, man.
Yeah, no, that is it. Yeah, because as a person who appreciates and understands history, I can understand how you learn from the past and how it's important to constantly not like minimize it or remove it in the context of saying. But it's even deeper for me, which is probably a whole another direction. I think for this is gonna get heavy for a minute, but for Black people, I think we've found, unlike many oppressed people in the world, in the history of the world, I think we've found value in being oppressed. And that's different from many narratives in history. And a lot of people don't know how to define it, but without oppression, you don't have James Baldwin, you don't have Eldridge Cleaver, you don't have Dr. King, you don't have Malcolm X, you don't have jazz, you don't have blues, you don't have the food, you don't have rap, you don't have... So in essence, you can simplify it and say that Black people's access to oppression, we found a way to be alchemists with it and transform it into something beautiful. Overcoming oppression is like a universal human idea of greatness. You know, we all cling to these stories of David and Goliath or the Great Well or all the, you know, Greek mythology. There's always these stories about the small person overcoming these odds that were against them. And historically, that's been the key to our beauty and our success, is being able to understand and know. Because even in New Orleans, the commentary was that, oh, y'all doing all this stuff about the monuments, but no one's ever been talking about that. They always talked about it as a footnote to understand. It was like, in case you ever forget where you are, just remember, look up Robert E. looking at you, and that's gonna remind you of the type of place that you're in.
Dotted amongst the endless fields of sugarcane are numerous plantation homes that allow a glimpse into the past. While most of them offer a genteel experience of the old-timey atmosphere in the master's house, I was more interested in learning about the history of the enslaved people. Opened in 2014, the Whitney Plantation is the only one in Louisiana that has a focus on slavery. tour guide Ashley offered a view of this abominable past and explained how this country still hadn't come to terms with it.
Looks like it's about to rain. So this is the Gwendolyn Midlow Hall Alley, and this entire memorial is dedicated to 107,000 people who were enslaved in the state of Louisiana from the year 1719 until 1820. And all of these panels have all of their names. But even that's only the tip of the iceberg for Louisiana, because for every one person that is documented, there's probably at least 4 others who are undocumented. So this is not even an accurate scale of how many people were enslaved throughout this state. But this is one narrative right here by a man named John McDonald. And he's talking about his experience as an enslaved individual, and it says, "No, sir, I can't read or write. When I was brought up, if my boss man catch me with a pencil or paper, it was 25 lashes." And so with our generation, realizing that how so much is created through education and socializing people, and you can literally create a generation of people and control their thinking based off of how you educate them and what you allow them to learn about, so to speak. So that's why stuff like the Whitney is so radical and so controversial, because we're changing education, so to speak, when we're bringing up the story, the narratives that for so long haven't been told because we don't acknowledge them. I think it's like reclaiming history, a new message of resistance, of freedom, and replacing symbols of supremacy, symbols that we have constantly seen. If you were enslaved on this plantation, a lot of people would consider you to be lucky, to have a better treatment than other people as far as living standard. Back here.
Can you imagine? If you look at this.
Can I imagine sleeping there, living here? No. Especially for me, the difficult part about imagining being enslaved is not even the actual living conditions, but more so the emotional and mental conditions. And the fact of, as a woman, I'm a woman, so I probably would have been a breeder. I can't imagine trying to raise children, trying to raise a family. How could I ever get attached to my children with the fear that I might wake up the next day and they may be sold to Mississippi, gone to a completely different state? So how did they navigate that reality? I have no idea how they did it. And even when we think about trauma and when we think about post-traumatic stress syndrome and how we acknowledge that when it comes to war, but we don't acknowledge it when it comes to something as harsh and as traumatic as slavery, and how that trauma has probably been passed on generationally amongst Black communities. So, yes, slavery did end 150 some odd years ago. However, this country never healed from that because we never really acknowledged it. And I think now more than ever, it's important that we heal together.
Our next stop was the small town of Huntsville, Alabama. This almost all-white community of 3,000 people made the news when Mayor Kenneth Neal wrote an open letter to Mayor Landrieu of New Orleans requesting the taken down memorials to put in his Veterans Memorial Park. I wanted to know why he would like to bring these contested statues into his community.
These are great people down here, white and black. Wonderful people, wonderful people. And overall, we have learned to live together. This school up here was integrated in 1967. I started school in 1969. And it has made me a better person going to a school that was integrated. Talked to a good friend of mine the other day who's African-American, and he told me, he said, I understand what you're trying to do. He said, I understand it's not a racist thing with you. I would love for there to be a civil rights memorial here. That's fine with me, because that's a struggle. You know, we like to celebrate everyone's struggles, the white, the African-American, the North, the South. And when we look at those memorials of Robert E. Lee or Jefferson Davis or Beauregard or whoever it is, we like to think of the big story. We like to think of the whole struggle. It was a terrible time in American history, and no doubt slavery was a terrible thing. Glad it's over. It just wasn't right. My sincere aim with this whole deal is to get people to think about it. And, you know, if we just throw every symbol away, if we just forget the past, are we going to repeat the past? I think the great American experiment is still ongoing, and, you know, the world and the United States has a whole lot of problems, but we think together that we can solve those problems. And I think it boils down to respect everyone and be nice to folks. But, you know, it goes both ways. The white folks need to learn to respect the African Americans and vice versa. We're going to have to live together, so we've got to get along. The old United States, you know, we've come through some turbulent times. That says it all right there. In memory of those who give their all. They give their all, and a lot of their families are still giving today. The hurt of their loss. That's who we honor. That's who we honor today. This is America right here. This race thing, we can get by it. We can get through it. We just gotta respect each other and we can make it work.
If the United States is defined by struggle and sacrifice, then the arduous effort of improving race relations pretty much constitutes American culture. Frank Matthews is a community activist, one-time gang member, and now running for mayor of Birmingham.
I'm on my way to freedom land. Up above my head, up above my head.
During the civil rights struggle, the city was nicknamed Birmingham for its frequent attacks on its African-American population, like these 4 schoolgirls who died when the KKK dynamited their church.
I really do believe there's a God somewhere. There's a God somewhere.
With Birmingham being such a focal point of the struggle for racial equality, Frank successfully campaigned to get a Confederate monument removed from Lynn Park. But the city council allegedly played a stalling and waiting game, buying time for the state legislature to pass a monument protection bill that would overrule the decision to remove the monument and preserve it for eternity.
I ended up being arrested 38 times, 33 times before I was even 19 years old. You know, it's long washed away, and now I'm pardoned. I ran for mayor office, and now I'm standing on the cusp. The poll numbers are looking good. That in all likelihood, I will be the 34th mayor of the city of Birmingham. It was a lifelong ambition of Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth and Abraham Wood to get rid of this monstrosity of hate that's in the back of me. And I had great opportunity when the Dillon roof situation came up, the killing of the 9 in South Carolina. And the mayor balked, the city council balked as well, and they put the onus on the Birmingham Park and Recreation Board. So I went before them and spoke, and they unanimously voted to take down this monstrosity of hate in the heart of Birmingham. And when Reverend Shuttlesworth breathed on me, and this compassion and passion he had for it, and to tell me, Frank, if we had tried to get this monument down then, we'd probably been hung, lynched, and or burned. That went deep in my heart and my soul, and I'm pledged to try to get rid of this thing by any means necessary within the law. The manner of their death was the crowning glory of their lives. What crowning? Crowning, what glory? The glory that they killed innocent children, they killed innocent women, old women, and for this lifestyle, you know, for a thing called slavery. This to be here is just an anchor down, holding it down. We're gonna keep the Southern lifestyle. It's still gonna be exemplified. Racism is still allowed and lives in Birmingham, and it's anchored. I mean, it just towers over like some Goliath of racism just stands here. Just have to look up and squint your eyes in the sun. So maybe during the 4 years as mayor, I'll try to make another move to get the legislation changed because, you know, by any means necessary within the law, I want this damn thing gone. This damn racist monstrosity of hate. That's what I call it. A monstrosity of hate.
I felt we hadn't seen the last of Frank. Maybe the election would finally enable him to turn the city's words into deeds. But right now, it was time to leave Birmingham behind and visit some staunch supporters of Southern heritage. And so, much like Alice in Wonderland, we tumbled through the rabbit hole and ended up in the heart of the Confederacy. H.K. Edgerton of Asheville, North Carolina, is one of the few black Confederate supporters. Once the local president of a civil rights organization, now he's an advocate for the true Southern history.
If I don't have been the president of NAACP, walked to Texas carrying this flag, nobody wouldn't pay attention to me. They'd tell you, it's like a young white boy told me, I'm gonna take you up where I was this morning. H.K. Edgerton. Yes, sir, buddy. God bless you. And, hey, y'all. God bless y'all. Hey, buddy. He walked up to me and asked me, are you drunk? I said, well, do I look like I'm drunk? Well, you gotta be drunk, cat, standing there as a black man with that flag, and look how you dress. Excuse me, y'all. This is our flag. This is black folks' flag, too. This is our homeland. Let's get down to the bad truths around here. Black folks were victims. Huh? That's all it is to it. Your mama don't know you got a nasty mouth like that, girl. We're victims. Integration hurt us. Look around. There are no more banks, black banks. No more black insurance companies. There are no more black libraries. Everything around here, it's all gone. These folks have come here from the north. They set up Walmart and all these other places. Our businesses are gone. If they just left us alone, that's all they had to do. Amen. God bless you. Martin Luther King said it best. The Negro in America has accepted a bad check marked insufficient funds. All the promises that these folks made to us about, oh, you now are part of this whole thing, we're gonna do good for you. Why did we have to live under 150 years? Why did we have to have Martin Luther King? We didn't need him if they had left us alone. I grew up right here when there were colored and white bathrooms standing right here where these folks are. There was a great deal of love from all of God's children, red, yellow, black, and white. Not only given to me, but given to the black community. My family was granted over 500 acres by Dr. Edgerton. One of my ancestors went off to war with Dr. Edgerton as a surgeon helper. Slavery in the Southland of America, it's not like what people talk about it as. One of the things that Northern folks hated about Southern people was the way the interactions they had with their slaves. I mean, these men hunted together, they fished together, they played together, and they went off together as friends because we were family.
If you have to put it shortly, what are you family?
My heritage, what happened around here that took people to war, because during Black History Month, they don't talk about Pole Bearers Association. They don't talk about Hope Collier, Rev. McLee, or any of those Black Confederate soldiers. They won't talk about any of the Black Confederate soldiers, all those women who made the uniforms and the gunpowder, who looked like me. They won't talk about that. It's always slavery. Those mean old white folks in the Southland of America. So wrong, so wrong, so wrong. But they have no idea who we are as a people and the relationships that we had as a people in lieu of the economic institution of slavery that the whole world was complicit in. France, Great Britain, Saudi Arabia, Russia. But only the Christian white man in the Southland of America is guilty for the economic institution of slavery and all the ills and all the bad things that ever happened. That's the way the story is told by the victor.
Here, time seems to have been stuck for the past 150 years. Almost like the Civil War never ended and the opposing sides weren't reconstructed into one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Instead, there's a distinct longing for antebellum times, when the Southern idea of freedom only applied to half its population. From the Southern perspective, the North was their Goliath, and they're still trying to overcome it today, invoking pastoral images of one big happy Southern family that was fiercely torn apart by Northern industrialists who forced their progressive attitudes on them.
And the pilgrims call it the tree of life.
The Old South is long gone, but its false romance still lingers on, offering the soothing fantasy of a simpler time where one's station in life was clear and the unspoiled agrarian community still free from the aggravations of modern society.
Too late, my brothers. Too late, but never mind. All my trials known soon be over. All my trials, Lord, soon be over.
In the sleepy old factory town of Alcoa, Tennessee, we were welcomed by Mrs. Lisa Thomas, also known as the Princess of the South. She's both a hairdresser and a local vice president of the United Daughters of the Confederacy, which put up most of the Confederate monuments that still remain throughout the country. We met her as she received a new pet shortly after the demise of her dog.
I'm a great-great and I'm a great-great-great-granddaughter. And they're two different men. That Confederate blood's in my veins. It's who I am. And I know the intentions of my Confederate ancestors, and I honor them greatly.
We'll have to figure out a general name for you. Yes. Yes.
You name your pets after generals?
I do. My dog was Stonewall Jack. We have not taken it very well. We're still mourning.
These are the Hines brothers. They're my third grade uncles. And this is Robert H. Hines. He rose to second lieutenant. I've met his granddaughter, Sammy. She is wonderful. And this is Sam Houston Hines. He was a surgeon, field surgeon. And there's a statue in downtown Maryville of him that we just put up.
Oh, when was that?
Last year. Took us 7 or 8 years to raise the money. Statues aren't cheap. The United Daughters of the Confederacy started in 1894. They built the majority of the monuments in the United States. And the reason they did it was because they wanted to keep the history true, number one. But it's their husbands, their fathers, their grandfathers, their brothers, and they didn't want their bravery to be forgotten. And it's to memorialize them. People automatically think we're haters, but we're not. We don't hate anybody. I wish people would really listen and do some homework, because they didn't have to leave home to go fight. And their own words was to get the Union out of there, get them up, move them back up north, and to protect their home state. And it had nothing to do with white supremacy. I'm tired of hearing that. And so when it comes to us celebrating our heritage, don't tell me I can't. You know, the Indians have powwows, and they dress in their tribal, which is back in the day, but no one blinks an eye. There's Greek Fest, there's the Asian Fest in downtown Knoxville. I'm not saying any of that's wrong. I love it. I love to learn about other people's culture. Why not look at us the same way?
Yeah, much better.
It's just our culture, and it has nothing to do with hate. How many times do we have to say that? It's about sweet tea and pearls and sitting on the front porch, you know, eating grits. It's celebrating those things. Satan's the prince of the air. He's going to use people to attack and cause division, and it's just getting worse. I mean, like what happened in Charlottesville. There were some hateful people there on both sides, but you have people with the Confederate flag showing love to people. Let us celebrate the heritage.
This monument has sat here for 103 years, and suddenly somebody's offended by it. And most Knoxvillians don't even know it's here. They didn't know until just recently when someone got offended. And it even faces the wrong way on the street, so nobody's really even noticed it. They used outdoor latex paint so it would gum up. And then shortly after it was completely clean, somebody did it again, and the city actually cleaned it off for us. But the days we spent out here cleaning it, most would stop and ask, why would somebody do this? And then they'd ask, what was Fort Sanders? What was it about? So we only had one person drive by and say something ugly to him, and we just smile and wave. We're hoping it died down, thanks to the guys there. Do you see it up there? Yeah, they're keeping an eye on it.
So who's looking at us now? Is that the official capacity law enforcement, or who?
Oh, it's the Sons of Confederate Veterans that are watching it.
Why would such a plain-looking memorial need round-the-clock video surveillance? If all Southern heritage means is drinking sweet tea on your porch and commemorating your ancestors, then why would anybody have a problem with that? Then again, if that's all it is, why would you adamantly hold on to the public display of Confederate battle flags and huge statues lionizing war generals whose motives to fight the war are contested, to say the least? We went to the Sons of Confederate Veterans, the ones surveilling the monument, hoping to find an answer to why this heritage is so important to preserve and display.
Just beyond these elm trees will be the museum, parking lot back here. The museum has all of the different indoor exhibits, Confederate flags, memorabilia, uniforms, stories of those men. And then as soon as you come out of that museum, you walk onto the about 70 acres of historical outdoor museum, where we'll have living historians interpreting the life of the Confederate soldier, sailor, and Marine. And then when you walk into Elm Springs on the tour, then that will be a museum dedicated to the families of those soldiers who were left behind. And then we'll also have a small museum on the history of the Sons of Confederate Veterans.
The SCV is the largest hereditary organization, home to over 33,000 male descendants of Confederate soldiers. Retired Lieutenant Colonel of the United States Marine Corps, Mike Landry, serves as their executive director.
So this tree here, this is an elm tree from during the war. Although it might have been a small tree, a small sapling, it was at least, here during the time. And if you think about all the things that have happened over the last 150 years, and that this tree has been able to see all those things. We don't really teach history in America anymore. We teach more agendas. Here's the test question, here's the answer. That's all you need to know. And what we do is we try to tell the true history of the Confederate soldiers, sailors, and Marines. And we educate the population about the true ideals of the Confederacy from their perspective. The popular narrative in the United States today and in the world is from the northern perspective. And so, but there has always been two sides of this story, and the other side of that story is the southern perspective. What's missing in today's debates on the war is that it's just assumed that the South fought a war to preserve slavery and the North fought a war to destroy it. The South truly believed that they were fighting the Second American Revolution based upon the principles of the American Revolution in 1775. So when they executed the same political principles of the Declaration of Independence to gain their independence, they didn't care whether the North allowed them to leave or not. They said, look, we are exercising the same principles that we left, the same principles that we...
But they left because they were afraid that slavery would be abolished, huh?
Slavery was definitely an issue, but it was more of a symptom and not the disease. The disease was the differences in social, political, and economic differences in the viewpoints of the North and the South. And it was in every aspect of the way that the two regions were looking at each other and how because they come from different perspectives on the role and functions of the federal government. And really, when you look at the war, the whole thing is about what is the role and function of the federal government, what is the role and function of the state government.
Whether secession was legal remains a hotly debated topic in some circles. But just like the Declaration of Independence wasn't simply accepted at face value, the Second American Revolution couldn't have happened without a war. As the first states pulled out of the Union, they explicitly stated their attachment to slavery in their secession letters and the Constitution of the Confederacy. They had no problem calling a spade a spade.
The dilemma today is that we cannot have an honest political discussion on the war because we are still using the war as a means to advance modern political agendas. And as long as we are using our history and our heritage as a means to divide and conquer our people, to pander to some demographic at the expense of another, to use our heritage and our history as a means to advance that modern political agenda, we will never be able to have an honest discussion. And facts don't matter. When only agendas matter, facts get in the way, and then they must be eliminated.
What is this modern political agenda?
Okay.
In a nutshell.
I don't know if I want to talk about that.
Seems to me it's sort of crucial in what's driving it.
Okay. So the modern political agenda is that there is a small faction of people in America who hate America, who want to destroy America, who want to rebuild it into something that is not. They want to usurp the Constitution, they want to destroy America as we know it, and they want to institute a Marxist-controlled government. If I have a free society and I can make the case that a symbol must be banned, that society is no longer free. At that particular point in time, we no longer have the ideals of America. We no longer have freedom. We no longer have the free expression of ideas. We have tyranny. And that's really what's going on in America today. The Confederacy, the Confederate flags, the Confederate monuments, our Confederate history is really nothing more than a means to an objective. And that's what's going on in America.
Sounds almost like 150 years ago then.
Yes, it does. And that's why the principles of 1775 are the same principles of 1860, are the same principles of 2017. You must stand for the truth no matter what anybody else believes. Even if everybody else believes something that's a lie, if you know the truth, you must stand for it and fight for it.
Hi, any more questions? Who we got?
There's one right over there.
Yeah.
Mean deviation, who knows what that means? It's basically the average miss on this rifle. Every firearm has a mean deviation to it that's published with it. At 800 yards, which is almost a half a mile, right? It was 12 inches. That's just about as good as any modern day sporting rifle. And in a minute, I'm going to shoot these for you. Show you how to load them.
Could you tell me which is the racist flag of the state flags? There's one that's real racist. Which one, huh?
That really big one, the one that's
This
with
one?
the S, yeah. Because
Well, a lot of people pick that. Anybody else?
Some people think that it supports slaves.
That's untrue.
That one?
This was the battle flag of the Army of Northern Virginia. Nothing no more, nothing no less. But they've really condemned this flag because they don't know the history. This flag flew over slavery for 84 years. No man on this earth should ever own another man. That is not right. Now, which is the most racist flag? I hate to say it, but right there it is. Aim. Fire.
Mine didn't shoot. You're gonna put it on your gun, and now what do you got? What do you got? You got a spear, don't you? Okay.
You got a Great. May I get a picture quick?
Yeah. Good looking gal.
All right, guys, let's pay lunch.
Armed with technical details about antique weaponry and some contorted logic about racism, the children are shipped off again, ready to propagate the key points of the lost cause mythology. Now it's playtime for the grown-ups. Thousands of enthusiasts across the country who call themselves living historians dress up as Union and Confederate soldiers and shoot blanks at each other in what is supposed to be an accurate rendition of the battles fought long time ago.
Let's put one over here on the right flank. I'll take the center, and one you go over on the left.
We're not here to refight a 150-year-old war, but we are here to tell the true history, not just what progressive Marxism does and that sort of thing. It's really exhilarating to be in a line, charging up a hill, yelling and shooting, and I mean, you know, where else do you do that in life?
Line of war, maybe.
Well, yeah, where you don't have to worry about all the pain and misery of real war. At least half of these guys are veterans. All of them are history lovers, but it's about the camaraderie. Even though yesterday got rained out, both the Yankees and the Rebels sat around and ate and drank, and you get away on the weekend and do that. A chance to get away from all your, you know, the things that make life stressful and so forth. It's just a lot of fun.
Everybody out! Ceasefire! Ceasefire!
There can seem to be some contradictory parts to this. We're not glorifying war. That's not the purpose of this. But when we do this in the field, I think it helps us become not just understanding, but almost empathetic of what the nation went through to some degree, and what the soldiers and the families back home went through also. If we're able to create a situation where someone may pay more attention to what their history is, or it may prompt them to ask a question of their family member, to learn about their family history, not just the Civil War or American history or world civilization history, then that is what we want to achieve. As a living historian myself, again, I think it's important for us to educate ourselves, to be good stewards of what happened, so that we can continue to pass that history on. There may be some uncomfortable topics to talk about, and we are not perfect as a society. We never have been. But we need to have this dialogue and even discourse if necessary. If we don't acknowledge our faults, if we don't acknowledge some of the inhumanity that took place and continues to take place, unfortunately, in even this day and age, we're doomed to repeat it. The fact that we're having this discussion right now is important. It's healthy. This is a tense time for us. And the fact that all of this is welling back to the surface is creating some uncomfortable moments. But we need to keep it civil. We need to keep it within bounds so that we can discuss and not just act out of pure emotion.
It is entirely possible that most of these individuals, while honoring their ancestors, have attempted to separate their bravery and sacrifice from the white supremacist ideology of the Confederacy they fought for. Stripped of any cultural or political points of reference, their historical outlook is limited to mere battle details. In doing so, they've reduced their Southern heritage to just 4 years of Civil War combat. Perhaps that's just representative of the all-American, gun-toting, flag-waving patriotism you find all around the country, and especially in the rural communities down south. But the strategic proliferation of Confederate flags shows it's not just about remembrance. It's about refighting a 150-year-old war, seeking to impose their narrative on a country that is slowly coming to terms with its difficult racial past.
We'll take a cup of kindness yet for old lang syne.
On our way back, we passed by Birmingham again. Frank Matthews had lost the elections, but the new mayor found a way to deal with the monument. Risking a lawsuit by the state of Alabama, he was careful not to touch the monument. But Frank doesn't approve of this flimsy solution.
It is in the Chronicles of Birmingham that the park board voted to get rid of the monstrosity of hate. The night when they put the wall up, it hit me so hard, and I went all out. And I lost a lot of votes. It makes me want to just push it down. Uh-oh, it almost went down. Oh, boy. If I was Samson, it'd go down. Take it down. Take it down. maybe a century from now, 50 years from now, someone else will use this step that I made to get courage and take heart and get it down maybe. I hate this thing. Get the box down, show it. Let it say what it says. They fought the United States of America. They fought the United States Constitution. They fought United States soldiers. They fought United States citizens. And they fought for slavery, a way of life, you know, in the South. So it's just no way to get around. They are wrong, wrong, wrong. Any way they try to justify it, wrong. They cannot make it come up. They were, Lee was a gentleman. Okay, a gentleman? Okay, good. Well, a gentleman happened to be a rebel gentleman, an enemy gentleman of the United States Constitution and the United States of America. You can't cover that up. Yeah, no, you can't do it.
At night, thousands of people line up for the laser show that makes Stone Mountain come alive. A flashy parade of sports stars, like Muhammad Ali, fills the humongous screen, followed by political leaders and even prominent civil rights persons like Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks, the likes of whom would never have been honored, let alone in such a fashion, had the Confederates not lost their war. If political correctness means hiding unpleasant truths in order to avoid offense, then this presentation captivates the concept perfectly. But whatever is being covered up remains discernible just below the surface. After concluding our road trip and returning to New Orleans, I came across a freshly painted mural by graffiti artist B. Mike. I remember how he told us that black people had been alchemists in transforming their history of oppression into something positive. And then it struck me, how come Southern heritage supporters never managed to do the same? Why doesn't their tale of David and Goliath finish with something valuable? Why do they limit themselves to the speck of time, just 4 years of Civil War history and over 150 years of rancor? After the war, Lee apparently called upon the people to meet in the spirit of reconciliation, to abandon local animosities and make their sons Americans. He said, "It is history that teaches us to hope." With a century and a half of perspectives on the Civil War and the turbulent times that followed, it seems time to answer that call.
I'm going back to where I belong, going back to where I stay. You know I give all my belongings and start walking to make my way, make my way, make my way. You know I gotta keep in motion till I